Okay, I'd like to talk a little about the technology that we use in optimizing irrigation water use. And this really goes back to a phase when wheel lines were the main thing. People would move them by hand. It takes a long time to roll this thing to the next position. It would sit there for typically 12 hours, or more conveniently for the grower, 24 hours. But in that time, it would drop a lot of water. And it might be more than what the root zone can hold. It might be more than what the soil can hold at that position. So usually, maybe 12 of the 24 hours is really wasted and just going through the profile. And when it does, it might migrate sideways and become a bigger problem elsewhere, or in the whole process of draining through the profile, it'll take some nutrients with it. And all of that, the cost of water, the labor, the loss of fertilizer, all has negative effects. And because of the long intervals, by the time the grower can come back here, he might be in a stress situation already. So enter the new technology, the pivot, this gracious thing around me, where the whole thing swings around and will apply water evenly. And with that, there are two ways of going. Either you have a sprinkler in the old style. Well, actually they started way up on the boom, out of reach, which was very inefficient. Then they made these drops to bring it down to like 5-foot level, 4-foot level. And now the spread of water is smaller, it spends less time in the air, less evaporation. So the efficiency has been increased dramatically. So this we'll call a mid-elevation. And then more recently, they've gone to low elevation, where they're dropping it to just above the ground. Now even if the crop is growing tall, and this could be alfalfa, corn, wheat, they will drag through the crop and work perfectly well. They'll just find their way through. And in fact, when it's wheat and it's ripening, this is a very big advantage, because you're not wetting the tops and they don't lodge over, so it stays below and these things stay standing up, which makes harvesting a lot easier. But the fact that you bring it all the way down out of the reach of evaporation pushes up the efficiency tremendously. So when we go from a wheel line to a pivot, we're probably saving 50% water. Then when we go from mid-elevation to low elevation, we're saving another 25% water. So between the old way and the most modern, we've really improved by a tremendous amount. That is just the application of water. Then we start looking at technology to understand what is the right amount of water to put on when. And I brought along a couple of samples. This here is a soil moisture sensor. Locally made, very good quality, and it measures between these conductors and it'll tell you exactly the soil moisture content there. Now you could have several of these in the profile and you can see where your irrigation water is going. And that is one model, but that is essentially a sensor. Now imagine if you took these conductors and bent them into a circle. Now you have something that you could put into a tube. So this guy here has 6 sensors in it. It's only 2 feet long, but it has 6 sensors, one every 4 inches. And it's an easy installation. It's just one hole to make, and now we're getting details right through the profile. So you irrigate, the water sinks in, and you can see when it hits this sensor, you can actually see a spike on a graph. It hits the second sensor and you see a spike. And you can very easily calibrate the depth that you need to apply the water. Make sure that you push it deep enough into the root zone, but not out the bottom. And that's one model. That guy is called the Green Shield. There is something very similar, different brand, called an Aqua Check, and in fact another Aqua Check. They come in all lengths and sizes depending on the crop you're working with, your requirement. This one is 4 foot, for instance. So when we have this kind of technology, it attaches to telemetry, and again there's a variety of these. It could be something like this box. There must be 20 brands on the market. The probe connects into here, and this has a cell phone modem or a radio modem, and it will beam the data as often as you like, maybe once an hour. So we get a picture forming on our computer or on our phone, where you can literally follow that. The pivot's gone through and you can see the effect of the water, and this feeds into software where you can see all of this, and the software has come to the point where you can get all of that information right there on your phone. So this is now bringing technology into ag, just like it is with trucks. Imagine your Chevy truck, you get in, You look at all the dials as you turn the key, and you got all this information coming to you. And that's what we're aiming for here with technology in agriculture. We want to make it really easy, and we want to make it accessible to the grower. So he can see weather data coming in. He knows how much it's rained, when it's rained. He can see what the wind is doing in terms of wanting to spray chemicals and so on. When he has the probe in the ground, he can see what the moisture status is on the probes. And then when he ties technology to the pivot itself, and this here is one of the available aftermarket. Most of the pivot manufacturers have this built in, but even if it's an older pivot, you can attach a box like this to the end tower. It takes over the pivot, and now you can remotely control this pivot, again right from your cell phone or your smartphone. You can stop, start, set the speed it up, and more importantly, when you have a field with variable soil types, imagine a cake with different compositions going around it, then you can slice this up into little pie sectors, and you can vary the speed. You might want to, if the soil is already wet in this sector, you can speed it up and just go through there quickly. It gets you around quicker, and it actually balances out the amount applied. And in the simplest form, it's like normally a irrigator would use a flat rate of irrigation, meaning he's dropping the same water everywhere as he goes around. Now we can tilt the scale with very simple technology, and accessible and cheap enough. And again, you can control it for your phone. Now you can say, I want to go with a little deeper irrigation in certain sectors and a little lighter there. And the software can analyze the field and tell you what to do where, come up with a scale. And all of this is now accessible to the grower. So everything comes to him either on a computer or a cell phone. And by combining all of these things, going to a higher technology level with the hardware, then bringing in software, bringing in weather data, and I mean localized microclimate data because it's affordable now, bringing in soil moisture data, everything adds an incremental element of value. And if you go from doing the old style with no technology to where you're applying all of these technologies, you are dropping the loss of water. It's the same crop using the same kind of water, but the loss of water through drainage, through evaporation and everything else, you have eliminated so much of that the efficiency has gone up by 60%. And that is huge. Either if you're paying for the water or you're sharing a scarce water source like a stream, where you got to think about the fish and other growers downstream and so on. And as these things mature, it's becoming easier and easier for the grower to manage, again from his phone, to the point where they're not afraid of technology anymore. It's accessible, they know what to do with it. With a push of a button, they have their whole operation in front of them. And it's been done in other fields. We're doing it with irrigation water management now, and as you've heard from the grower here, he loves it. Even though he's an old-timer, he took to it very quickly, and he's loving it, and he can already see the advantages that he's getting.